December 23, 2015, Ukraine. In a power grid control room, an engineer goes rigid. His computer mouse is moving on its own. The cursor hovers, clicks OK, and a section of the power grid goes dark. Instantly, thousands of apartment lights blink off. Heaters die in midwinter. He grabs the mouse. Nothing. Then, another click, another blackout. 30 substations, 230,000 people. One cursed cursor. Even the control room falls into darkness. The backup generators have been sabotaged too. No bombs, no storm, just a group of hackers stealing a nation's electricity in real time. How did a piece of malware flip a country's switch? And was this blackout only a rehearsal for something far bigger? The seeds of this power grid ambush were planted nearly 8 months earlier, spring 2015, long before anyone in Ukraine had heard of BlackEnergy, a stealthy strain of malware creeping through global systems. In a regional electricity company called Prikharpatia Oblenergo, employees start receiving strange emails. One IT staffer opens an innocuous-looking Microsoft Excel attachment. A prompt appears, enable macros. Perhaps without a second thought, he clicks yes. That single click silently releases BlackEnergy malware onto the corporate network. In that instant, a hidden back door opens. Unknown to anyone, an intruder now lurks inside. No alarms, no immediate chaos, just a beachhead established within the power company's IT systems. Over the ensuing weeks, the hackers methodically spread their roots. BlackEnergy isn't a smash-and-grab virus. It's a suite of tools designed for quiet conquest. The attackers steal login credentials, map out network topologies, and learn the daily routines of the engineers. They discover that the critical SCADA network, the system that actually controls the flow of electricity, is segmented behind firewalls, isolated from the corporate network. But isolation doesn't mean invulnerability. The intruders patiently probe for a bridge. Eventually, they strike gold. Some employees occasionally remote into the SCADA control network via VPN, using just a simple username and password. No multi-factor authentication, no one-time tokens, just one secret password between the hackers and the grid controls. And thanks to the malware's espionage, the attackers now have several of those passwords in hand. A stolen password is one thing, but can a single login really bring down an entire grid, or do the invaders need a second hidden doorway? Day by day, the threat inside grows. The Ukrainian engineers remain unaware that every keystroke might be watched. Spring turns to summer, and the intruders move freely through the networks, like ghosts mapping out the hallways of a fortress from the inside. All the while, the attackers are planning something unprecedented. Small test runs, maybe a furtive toggle of a system here or there, go unnoticed. If anyone did spot a weird log entry or an unusual network connection, they didn't realize what it meant. Nothing obvious happens, not yet, but a trap is quietly being set. Someone is in the walls and the defenders haven't a clue. 8 months of silent intrusion, and not a single alarm. But what exactly are these ghosts after? By autumn 2015, the attackers have mapped out the grid operator's world and collected keys to every gate. They aren't just idly wandering, they're preparing the battlefield. This is advanced, persistent threat in action. Patient, thorough, ruthlessly clever. The hackers have one ultimate goal: turn off the electricity and make it stay off. To pull that off, breaking in was only step one. Now comes the genius of their plan. First, they target the operator's lifeline systems. Inside 2 of the 3 regional control centers, the hackers found network-connected, uninterruptible power supply, UPS devices. Basically backup batteries that keep the control rooms powered during outages. During their recon, the attackers remotely access these UPS controllers and reprogram them. In the event of an outage, those backups won't kick in. In fact, they'll do the opposite, shutting everything off. It's a deliberate booby trap. When the lights go out, the operators will go blind too. A bold, almost taunting move. As one investigator later put it, it wasn't enough to plunge customers into the dark. They wanted the operators blind too. If you blind the operators, who restores the grid? And more crucial, how long until anyone realizes the backups have been booby-trapped? Next, they turn their focus to the field equipment. Each distribution substation communicates with the central SCADA via little devices called serial to Ethernet converters. basically adapters linking old-school equipment to modern networks. The attackers do something no one had seen before. They develop and deploy a custom malicious firmware update for these converters. One by one, over a dozen substations silently receive the tampered firmware. The effect? As soon as the hackers strike, these critical devices will brick themselves, becoming unresponsive hunks of silicon. Operators would lose all remote control of those substations. To those in the know, this was a brilliant bit of sabotage. Operation-specific malicious firmware updates in an ICS had never been done before, marveled one expert later. The attackers were covering every angle to ensure that once the lights went out, they stayed out. And they're still not done. The team crafts a telephone bomb, a plan to jam the power company's call centers at the fateful moment. They assemble a list of thousands of phone numbers and prepare a flood of automated calls set to detonate when the attack begins. The idea is devious. When tens of thousands of Ukrainians find themselves in the dark, they'll all pick up the phone to ask why. But the constant busy signals and unanswered calls will sow confusion and frustration. It's a psychological sucker punch. Make the public lose trust in their utilities just as the crisis hits. Every piece is in place. By December, the hackers have control over the circuit breaker interfaces, custom malware hiding inside dozens of machines, and the precise timing for a coordinated strike. A perfect storm is engineered, and the forecast is looking dire. Now everything is in place. The only decision left, when do they pull the trigger, and will anyone notice before the lights die? 3:30 p.m., December 23, 2015. The trap springs. Using stolen VPN credentials, the attackers slip into the live SCADA control systems of 3 different regional power companies simultaneously. In each, they move with surgical precision. At Prikarpatia Oblenergo's control center, one operator suddenly finds his mouse under alien control, the nightmare scenario unfolding in real time. As he and colleagues shout in alarm, elsewhere in Ukraine, 2 other power distribution centers experience the same bizarre takeover. In each location, the attackers quickly open dozens of circuit breakers, essentially cutting the power feeding whole swaths of the grid. In minutes, entire districts across Ivano-Frankivsk, Chernivtsi, and Kiev regions plunge into darkness. Even before the first panicked calls can flood in, the hackers trigger their preset telephone DDoS attack. Phone lines into the utilities are overwhelmed by thousands of fake calls appearing to come from Moscow phone numbers. No status board, no phone support, only darkness. Is this a mere outage, or the first volley of an invisible war? Customers who desperately call the electric company only get endless busy tones. In dark apartments and offices, people screw up for flashlights and radios, wondering if this is just a technical glitch or something worse. Inside the control centers, chaos reigns. Engineers watch breaker after breaker flip open on their screens, then go gray as communications die. The attackers systematically log the operators out of their own interfaces and change passwords behind them. Attempts to reconnect to substations fail. The malicious firmware has cut the wires metaphorically. Then the final coup de grace. A piece of malware called Kill Disk detonates on the operator's computers. Monitors flicker, then go blank. Kill Disk erases crucial files and corrupts the machine's boot records, bricking the workstations mid-crisis. In some cases, it even takes down remote terminal units' embedded HMIs, effectively sabotaging devices on the edge. The control rooms fall eerily quiet, except for alarm buzzers and the cursing of operators in the dark. Quite literally in the dark. Because right on cue, the attackers' booby-trapped UPS systems execute shutdown commands. The entire control center loses power. In 2 facilities, even emergency lights fail. Operators find themselves holding flashlights utterly cut off from their grid. For roughly 1 to 6 hours, power is out across large parts of western and central Ukraine. In total, over 225,000 people were affected by the outage. The first time in history that a cyber attack had ever taken down a civilian power grid. What's remarkable, and fortunate, is that the blackout wasn't longer. In each region, field technicians and electricians, alerted by frantic phone calls and radio, scramble to switch breakers manually at the substations. Truck headlights and handheld radios guide crews through the evening gloom as they physically crank open switches to restore electricity. By late that night, lights are winking back on in most neighborhoods. The immediate crisis, it seems, has passed. But as computers reboot into blue screens and stunned engineers stare at the devastation, a new realization dawns. This was no ordinary outage. It was a brazen cyber assault executed with a sophistication that experts had only theorized about until now. And although the lights are coming back, the danger is far from over. The attackers may be gone, but the threat they revealed is here to stay. 250,000 people shivered in the dark, victims of a new kind of invisible warfare. The power is back for now. But what happens when it goes out next time? In the days that follow, Ukraine scrambles to investigate the breach and to pin the blame. Almost immediately, suspicion falls on the most likely culprit, Russia. The blackout came at a time of high tensions in the ongoing Russo-Ukrainian conflict. Just weeks earlier, unknown saboteurs, widely believed to be Ukrainian partisans, had bombed power lines feeding Russian-annexed Crimea, causing blackouts there. Many in Ukraine see the cyber attack as retaliation, a shadowy warning from Moscow not to meddle. Ukraine's SBU, security service, announces that Russian state-sponsored hackers, specifically a known group called Sandworm, are behind the attack. Sandworm is infamous for its cyber espionage campaigns against Ukraine, NATO, and European energy companies. And now it appears to have unleashed the world's first true cyber-induced blackout. International experts fly in to help unravel the attack. US DHS and FBI personnel arrive on site, shocked by the level of coordination they hear described. Investigators find fingerprints, the BlackEnergy malware on company networks, hidden remote access tools, logs of unauthorized VPN connections from Russian IP addresses. Everything points to a highly organized operation months in the making. It was brilliant, one American analyst remarks, noting how well choreographed the assault was. But if investigators see the fingerprints, you can bet the hackers left them on purpose. Or did they? Are we looking at evidence or a signature? Unlike most hacks that exploit software bugs, this one used the system's own features against itself, from abusing Office macros to hijacking VPNs and even phone systems. It's a wake-up call that such an attack is not only possible, but repeatable. For Ukraine, the immediate impact is traumatic, but temporary. Lights out for an evening, some computers destroyed, and confidence deeply shaken. The affected utilities remain under constrained operations, resorting to manual control for weeks as they replace equipment and rebuild systems. The subtler damage is psychological. Citizens who lived through routine blackouts in the post-Soviet 90s suddenly feel that familiar chill and uncertainty, this time delivered via keyboard strokes from afar. Was this just the opening salvo of a broader campaign? The Ukrainian government fears so. They publicly call it a dress rehearsal by Russia for future attacks on critical infrastructure. Around the world, grid operators and security agencies also snap to attention. If hackers could do that to Ukraine, could they do it here? Reports quietly circulate of similar malware found in power sectors across Eastern Europe and even glimpses in US systems. The Ukraine attack becomes a case study at security conferences. The nightmare scenario that experts had warned about for years, now proven real. One question reverberates in boardrooms and situation rooms alike. Was this just a one-off stunt, or the dawn of a new era of cyber warfare against infrastructure? In the months and years after the 2015 blackout, one thing becomes clear. Ukraine was the canary in the coal mine for cyber-induced power outages. Exactly 1 year later, in December 2016, a second cyber attack struck Kyiv's transmission station, briefly plunging part of the capital into darkness again, confirming that the hackers weren't done. So if Ukraine is the testing ground, where is the battlefield? Which nation's switches get flipped next? The lights eventually came back on in Ukraine. But Ukraine wasn't the only target. In 2022, a lone vigilante hacker took an even bolder step. He disconnected North Korea's entire internet from a laptop in his living room. See exactly how he did it in our next story. The hacker who broke North Korea's internet.